Welcome to Sunny's Mindset Lab. Today, we have a very special guest, Sedona, the author of the Zen of Love. We're exploring the deep emotional and spiritual insights from this book and how they can transform the way we understand love, relationships, and inner peace.
Thank you for having me. I am honored to walk your listeners through the guidance in the Zen of Love and share how these principles can help them experience more love, clarity, and emotional freedom. I'm so glad you're here. Your book opens with such a powerful question, this idea that maybe all our suffering and love comes from one fundamental misunderstanding. You trace this back to a really personal story from your childhood, don't you? I do. When I was very young, I had this pure, simple love with my first girlfriend, Ginny. It was just easy. But then I started school, and I suddenly felt this pressure to fit in with the other boys who were all teasing that girls had cooties. And one day, Ginny ran up to hug me in front of my new friends, and I pushed her away. I pretended I didn't know her. In that moment, I chose fear over the truth of what was in my heart. That wasn't just about hurting her, was it? In the book, you call it a betrayal of your true self. That was a huge moment, the first step into believing in this idea of separation, that we're somehow disconnected from love itself. And you argue that this one belief is really the source of all our pain. So how does that childhood choice, that illusion of separation, actually cause problems for us as adults? How does it play out? Well, it creates this deep sense of neediness. If we believe love is this limited thing outside of us, then we're always scrambling to get it from someone else. Relationships become these transactions. We're terrified of losing the source, and we start projecting all of our own stuff onto our partners, hoping they'll fill that hole inside of us. Okay, so if this illusion is the core problem, the book offers a really practical way to start healing it. I'd love for you to talk about the mirror exercise. It seems so simple, but it sounds incredibly powerful. It is. The practice is just this. You stand in front of a mirror, look directly into your own eyes, and for 5 minutes, you just repeat the words, "I love you." The interesting thing is, for almost everyone, the first thing that comes up is not a feeling of love. It's a flood of self-criticism. All those inner voices jump in, You're a fraud. You're not good enough. Who are you kidding? So the point isn't even to feel love right away, is it? It sounds like the real goal is to expose those blocks, to let all those yucky thoughts, as you call them, come to the surface.
That's exactly right. The practice is to keep saying I love you while allowing those critical thoughts to arise. You don't fight them, but you also don't believe them. You just see them for what they are, old programming, like clouds passing by. The exercise brings them into the light so they can finally be let go.
And if someone sticks with that practice, what starts to shift? You write about learning to see yourself through the eyes of love. It's a beautiful transformation. The conditions we place on love start to fall away. You know that voice that says, "I'll love myself when I'm more successful," or "if I were thinner." All of that just dissolves. You start to see yourself beyond the so-called flaws with real acceptance. And that is the start of the most perfect relationship you'll ever have. That really leads into another core theme of the book, which is that love isn't something we get from others, but something that we fundamentally are. And you illustrate this with another powerful story from when you were a teenager. Yes, when I was 16, I had this huge crush on a girl named Rachel. And after spending an afternoon with her, I was walking home just filled with this incredible feeling of love and bliss. But then it hit me. I hadn't been with her for over an hour, but the feeling was still right there inside of me. The love wasn't coming from her. It was coming from within me. So she was the trigger, but she wasn't the source. That's it. Exactly. Another person gives us permission to fall in love with love itself, which is our own true nature. We just mistakenly think the feeling is about them, but the love was always there waiting to be recognized. It's not a transaction. It's a realization of what we already are. So what's the practical takeaway there? How do we live differently knowing that? The shift is to make love itself, that internal reality, your first priority, more important than any single person or relationship. When you do that, your relationships are no longer needy. Love becomes an overflow from an infinite well inside you, not a desperate attempt to fill an empty cup. Which leads to this incredible teaching in the book: love cannot cause pain. Only our illusions about love can. Can you unpack that for us? It means that love as our true nature is infinite and unconditional. It can't be hurt. What hurts us are our beliefs about it. The belief that it's limited, that it can be taken away, that we need one specific person to give it to us. When we know the source is always within us, our love becomes free, fearless.
This entire journey you're describing, it feels like it's really about a spiritual awakening, and it leads to the book's ultimate teaching, a very simple but profound statement. All there is love. It is. And when you begin to see through the eyes of love, your perception of the world changes. What we might label as evil or cruelty, we start to see it differently. We see it as a desperate cry for love from someone who has completely forgotten their true nature. When you see it that way, judgment just dissolves into compassion. You realize even the most painful acts are part of a long, painful journey back to love. So the path isn't about trying to escape pain then. It sounds like you're saying our messy, complicated lives are actually the perfect classroom for this.
Absolutely. Our lives aren't an obstacle to awakening. They are the very key. The suffering we experience is the signpost. It's what points us out of the dream of separation and gently guides us back home, back to the reality of what we are.
And that brings us to the final core teaching. It seems to wrap everything up so beautifully. Yes, the practice ultimately isn't about trying to create love or go out and find it. It's about surrender. It's about letting go of everything that is false so that the love that is already here, that has always been here, can finally emerge. Because in the end, it's the only thing that's truly real. Sedona, thank you for sharing these beautiful and powerful insights from the Zen of Love. This conversation will help our listeners understand and experience love in a deeper, more transformative way. It was my pleasure. I hope these teachings guide your listeners toward peace, clarity, and true love. This has been Sunny's Mindset Lab. Thank you for joining us. See you in the next episode.